Experience tranquility.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Iris Podcast. I am Ski Free Yeti. Joining me today, we have NPC, Specs, and Nixal. Unfortunately, Thuggington could not be here today. He blamed something in Quebec. You take that for what it is. I'm assuming HQC
I feel attacked.
I'm assuming HQC is involved.
Where's Providence?
I feel attacked.
That being said, we are back here now for the Week 8 wrap. But unfortunately, we do have to start with the elephant in the room. And that is the situation with the aimbots. Unfortunately, today the aimbots announced that they were folding. It's a shame to see them go, especially because they were one of the original Tranquility community franchises. We hate to see it, but we respect their wishes and we wish them all the best. As was announced in the announcements earlier today, anybody who played the aimbots will be receiving a bi-week 4-0 win. So anything retroactive would be changed to a 4-0 win, and anything in the future would be a 4-0 win. We obviously don't love that. We wish things could be different, but we understand it just wasn't working for the aimbots anymore, and they've elected to fold the team. So that being said, the community does go on, and we still have a Discord tier to talk about. And we're going to start it off with a hell of a Discord tier match. Finally airing on Wednesday before everybody's weekly matches. NPC Meteor's One Last Ride.
Yeah, we had a lot of technical issues broadcasting that game live, so we ended up recording it, and then Twitch had some technical issues broadcasting it on their own, so we ended up having to move it to Wednesday. I'm going to tell you, this game was the game of the century of the week. Okay, it went all the way to map 5. There was a halftime interview. There was a great casting performance by Man Jones and Juke. By the end, Man Jones was yelling his head off, and he finally stopped to take a breath, and Juke was there, just calm as he could be. Yeah, see, they're going to rotate off the point. It was just amazing. The game had lots of shield-on-shield action, if you're into that sort of thing. Absolute clinic on how to play the current meta heroes, really. The standout players were Pyro on the Pharah, the Reaper, the Symmetra, Overnight Coder on the Mei, and the Doomfist. You got to see it all the time. Notably, Cryptic Force did not feed quite as much. Or not Cryptic Force, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead to another note. Cryptic Force did not feed in the next one. So I was talking about Sigma. We got to see a lot of high-end Sigma play. We got to see a lot of Sigma play there from pretty much everybody played Sigma. We got to see some Orisa play, which was really, really good coming out of Courage. So that was really good. If you want to see this VOD, you can't find it under the regular past broadcast section. It's actually under the highlights and uploads on the Twitch channel, and it may be on the YouTube channel soon. So it was a very, very good game, though. Went all the way to map 5.
I would highly recommend, if you're just sitting around, you got nothing better to do, go check out that VOD. It's legitimately one of the best Overwatch matches we've ever had as part of the Tranquility community. Excuse me for a minute. In case you didn't know, I am sick. We're going to go next to the Harmony tier matchup between Holy Jalapenos and Minty Hippos, and that's Nick.
Yeah, so this game started off really close on Ilios, back and forth, going to map 3. Really good Overwatch, really good plays between both teams. From there, things kind of took a turn where Jalapenos kind of took momentum and took the swing. Both teams did cap with a respectable 2-ish time bank on Hanamura. Obviously, Jalapenos cap with way more time than Hippos, and then just from there, Jalapenos just dominated the rest. I would say. For me, standout plays was, as always, the Mallard, just insane on everything he plays. Johnny Robot's Doomfist remains probably the best in the tier. Despite that, I do think Show put up a pretty decent fight against Johnny Robot on the Doomfist in that match.
Yeah, I would say that the Minty Hippos have had 2 rough weeks in a row, but don't count out the Minty Hippos. That's a very solid team. Taftimus is an incredible player. P-Shroom is honestly one of the better off tanks in the tier. Quick is really incredible on any hero he plays. So Minty Hippos are certainly no one to overlook. But Holy Jalapenos look incredible. Hot take, Johnny Robot is the second best player on the team behind Mallard. Mallard is that good. Like, Mallard, I think if he really grinded this game seriously, could probably be a Masters. That's how good he is. So, just something to think about. He's got one of the biggest brains for this game I've ever seen. Like, that one play sticks out for me for last week, where his team was getting Grab Dragon, and he just was standing in the May, like, oh, and just pops a wall up. Yep. Like, that's just, normally people don't think about these things. So, he's a very smart player, and he's a big leader for that team. So, Holy Jalapenos look to be very strong right now. We're going to move on now. Really quick, I wanted to touch on this while everybody's here, and he's been in the chat. We wanted to, again, congratulate Juke on his promotion to the Tranquility community staff. He will be heading up our Twitch production staff. He will be basically in charge of our scheduling for that, and he'll be handling all of the coordination for that. So Juke has been an excellent addition to the community this season in an unofficial aspect as a leader for the Twitch team, and now it is official, and justifiably so. So definitely some pogoos in the chat for Juke. And now we are going to get to the scoreboard. Now, unfortunately, Specs, you were having some Photoshop issues, right?
Yeah, Photoshop just decided to die on me, so.
Yeah, so Photoshop wasn't cooperating. So I, for those of you who don't know, am an artiste, if you will. And I wanted to take an opportunity to show off my own artistic skills. Yeah, I was pretty happy with this. So we'll go ahead and take a look here. Starting off first, Instalock takes the 4-0 forfeit victory over Otaku. It looks pretty good with that muscly arm back there. Alta 4 takes a 3-0 against Harmony and Chaos. Eclipse with a 4-0 win over Prodigious. Next one is a 3-0 win for Commit over Infius Gaming. Following one up here is Sugar Rush, the 2-1 loss up against Invictus. Tough Luck falls 3-1 against the Meteors. We have a 3-0 win for Undead Battery over Comets, avenging NPC's betrayal. We have a 4-0 victory for Illusion over Spare Change. We have a 4-0 win for Karma over the Careless Pandas. And we have a 3-0 win for Maelstrom over the Jetpack Cats. And then we have the Pacified Pythons taking their first win of the season with a 3-0 win over the Fighting Potatoes. Vitamin C taking out DDoS 3-1. And then last but not least, Minty Hippos falling 4-0 to the Holy Jalapenos. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I did put a lot of effort into that, and I think it turned out pretty good. Pretty happy with it overall.
Very high quality.
Yeah. So I spent at least probably 20 minutes total on it. I'm pretty happy with it. So
you could have said 20 minutes per one, and I would have believed you. So
yeah, definitely believable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, I did it pixel by pixel, because I'm an artist, an artiste. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Moving on now to the next thing. Obviously, guys, let's just talk about any surprises from this week. There was some interesting scores. NPC, let's start with you.
So the interesting score for me was Eclipse game. The Eclipse. I mean, they won with Cryptic Force on the roster. Now, at first, I want to say he took my speech to heart. All he needed was a little motivational speech. He needed some instructions from the master, and that made it happen. But no, he actually didn't feed quite so much somehow on Sigma. which is a little bit more mobile. But I think in the end, Dimtree was the problem. I think that was it. You have to add Dimtree in the chat. Great plays by Redgear, Rocket, even Bubbers was on support. I mean, big highlight here. They put Bray on Orisa and Cryptic got moved to Sigma Jail. Initially, I really thought Prodigious was going to win this game. I really did. I thought that they were just going to out DPS them, but Eclipse they got organized. You know what I mean? They seemed to know where to hold. They were holding in the right places, and they just knew exactly where Prodigious was going to be, and they had the counter comp every step of the way. Every time Prodigious pulled out something, Eclipse had the counter for it.
Rocket looks very strong on Eclipse. That could be a massive pickup for that team. I mean,
if only someone here called that. If only.
Yeah, if only. I think it was Nick who called it, right? Or was it NPC?
It was.
Oh, okay. All right. Speaking of Nick.
Yeah, it was definitely was me.
Speaking of Nick, any surprises for you this week?
I was actually gonna talk a little bit about the Prodigious and Eclipse game, but NPC beat me to it. The other scoreline that stood out to me was Karma and Careless Pandas. I mean, Karma getting the 4-0, kind of huge against what we thought early on was going to be a team that some of you said would not lose more than 2 maps. I mean, yeah, they've had some roster issues here, losing one of their better DPS or one of their top 2 DPS in Dim Ryan, but you gotta wonder if that's going to affect them as much.
And he's muted.
God damn it! When did it cut out?
Just a second ago. Just a second before.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you gotta wonder if it's gonna affect them moving forward, or how much it's gonna affect them moving forward in their upcoming match.
Specs, any takes from you?
Yeah, so the biggest one for me was Undead Battery 3 over Comets. Undead Battery looked very, very solid. To be completely honest, I was questioning them a little bit kind of heading into this week. But Titan Man's a pretty good coach. He's been doing a lot of work with Undead, and they're growing very quickly. To me, they're one of the teams that's definitely up and coming and one to be scared of. Impulse is really taking the charge there too. So love seeing that for them.
Yeah, that was the take I was gonna have too. Is Undead Battery is really rising up right now. They look really strong. Climate is an incredible DPS. Crimson looks awesome. But really the linchpin of that team has been their tank play. It's been really strong lately. They've been playing outstanding. Yeah. And I think that's a critical thing. Impulse is playing better than he did in Season 1 right now. Season 2 was a bit of a fallback for him. I think a lot of people would agree with that. But Season 3, this has been his best season so far, and it's showing. He's taken the leadership of that team, and he's doing really great things with it. So lots to be proud of there for the Undead Batteries. I would not be surprised to see them maybe turn around some upsets here late season, maybe in the playoffs. See how that goes down. I think the meta shift, if there's a meta shift, it could go a long way to helping that team. If Crimson can start playing some hit scans, watch out. This team is going to be spicy. So
yeah, I couldn't be mad at the end of that game. I mean, I built a team that I couldn't defeat. It's my own undoing there. I was also going to mention, I'm surprised you guys didn't, the Pythons getting the win over the Potatoes, having reformed just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the Potatoes, they did, Gamstree is gone, and they were missing Rigmadon this week. So the game may have gone a little differently if they had Rig in the game, but I'm just very surprised and pleased at how far the Pythons have come in just such a short time. And I mean, the season's not over. They could do it. So
I think the biggest thing with the Potatoes is just missing Rig. Like Solitary Bird had some really good moments when he's played main tank, but Rig is just the anchor of that team. And when he's gone, it's like Dunzo missing from Season 2 Havoc. It's just kind of over after that. So moving on now to our next segment here, guys. It's going to be the top plays from Week 8. Thank you all for submitting these plays again. It's a lot of fun, as always, putting these together, and please enjoy.
Wizard, what do you see as you twist the tiles beneath? all I feel. What do you see?
Thank you, everybody, for submitting those plays again. We were excited to get those out and show them off to you. So great work from everybody. Really good matches this week, and a lot of fun putting those montages together, as always. So now we're going to get into the hotly debated power rankings. We're going to start off in the Harmony tier. We see Vitamin C number 1, Maelstrom number 2, Karma number 3, Illusion number 4, Holy Jalapenos at 5, Minty Hippos 6, Undead Battery in 7th, Careless Pandas in 8th, the Jetpack Cats are in 9th, and DDoS in 10th. Teams not shown here include Comets, Pacified Pythons, Fighting Potatoes. I am missing a couple, and I'm having trouble with my memory, apparently. I am on medication.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go first here.
And spare change.
There you go, spare change.
And
I love you, Jetpack Cats, but I don't think they belong on here. They've had some roster changes. Maybe in a week or two they'll be back in sync, but as of right now, based on their potential going forward into the week, I just don't see it. I say we take them off there and we put Boop in their place. Wow. I think Boop is on the backside of that rebuild, and now they're on their way back up.
Yeah, totally.
Max, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd definitely go along with that, and then I'd swap 3 and 4, and then 6 and 7, and then I think that's
Well, excuse me, I never.
I mean, it's nothing against you guys. It just Illusion still has only lost one match, and I don't want to say that was a fluke, but I think it was a fluke. So,
Nick, any thoughts?
I won't comment on Illusion's ranking, though I just kind of did.
You're cutting out again.
God damn it. Okay. Give me 1 second here. The other thing for me is Undead Batteries. They're too low at 7th. considering how far they've come and how good they're playing right now. Um, I would probably have them sixth. I mean, I wouldn't rank them above Holy Jalapenos right now, but definitely not seventh. I would swap out Minty Hippos with Undead Batteries, and I think for me, other than that, maybe Jetpack Cats, put them down to 10th. Just have them barely crack the top 10, but other than that, everything else seems pretty straightforward.
I think you take Holy Jalapenos, move them up to second, and move everyone else down one. I think the Holy Jalapenos are playing that good right now. I had a great discussion last night with my coach for Karma, Smugs. We actually play Jalapenos this week, and legitimately he said that the Holy Jalapenos scare him more than any other team in the entire Harmony tier right now. The way they're playing is outstanding. So, something to keep in mind. They look terrifying. So I'm really excited to play them, but at the same time, like, that team looks great right now. So I honestly would put them as number 2. I wouldn't put them over number 1, Vitamin C, because Vitamin C is yet to be beaten. And until they're beaten, I don't think you can take them down. All right. And now we'll move on to the Discord tier. In the Discord tier, we have Commit number 1, Meteors 1, or number 2, One Last Ride in 3, Renovadio in 4, Tough Luck in 5th, Instalock 6, Invictus in 7th, Prodigious 8th, Sugar Rush 9th, and Eclipse in 10th. Eclipse cracks the power rankings for the first time this season. An exciting time for Eclipse fans.
Yep, definitely exciting. So here we go. Here's my settings here. I'd put Infius on there in 10th. Okay. I'd take Sugar Rush off completely. I'd move Eclipse up to 8 and Prodigious down to 9. I mean, the top set, they're just locked. I mean, the top half of that is really locked in there. Speaking of locks, I think Instalock, we need to move them down a little bit. Not too far. I'd maybe flip them with Invictus, but I'd move them down a little bit. But then after that, it'd be Eclipse, Prodigious, and then Infius.
Nick, what do you think?
Honestly, the one thing I would change, and it's just because Instalock's kind of finishing up the rebuild or getting those new players in, is swap Invictus with Instalock. That's it. Other than that, for me, this is pretty straightforward top 10.
Specs, they're going in on your boys. What's your thoughts? Did Illusion just drop in your personal power rankings?
That's the biggest joke I've ever heard. I think the second biggest joke is having Prodigious on this list. Getting 4-0'd by Eclipse is rough. Like, I know they're starting to turn their things around, but 4-0 is a tough look for Prodigious, especially with the rest of their schedule they have coming up. I think I put Alta 4 on there, unfortunately, instead of them. But,
hey, how many wins is Alta 4 going to have this season again?
You know what?
Are we past this now?
Yeah. No. I mean, we just took their best player, so that was our kind of plan. So,
well, he went to the aimbots first, and then you took him from the aimbots.
Yeah. So okay, fair.
All right, fair enough. I think you have to move teams that are struggling with the rebuild down. Tough Luck's doing some rebuilding. Instalock is rebuilding slightly, not a ton, but slightly. I think you need to move them down to 7th and 8th. I think you bring Invictus up to number 5. I think that's where I stand. I honestly would put Prodigious higher than you guys are saying. I think it's a bad look that they lost that, but the body of work from Prodigious is still really strong. So I think they're being overlooked a little bit there. So
I don't, for me at least, it's not the fact that they got 4-0'd, it's the fashion in which they got 4-0'd. They got rolled. Absolutely rolled.
They got a big week coming up, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But that is the power rankings for this week here. We are going to now go to an exciting segment where we get to go back and talk about some of those little bold predictions we made at the beginning of the season and have an opportunity to revisit, eat some humble pie, or double down. So we're going to start off with the first prediction that was made. That was NPC. NPC, you said Tough Luck is going to have such a hard time if they make the playoffs at all. It's going to be a wild card game, and they're going to lose it. Would you like to take that back, or are you sticking with the hot take?
I'm going to double down. I'm going to pull a Specs, and I'm going to double down right now, okay? Personalities, they're big, okay? They're just... The season they could go winless the rest of the season, sneak into a wild card game and lose it. That's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna stick with it just because I gotta.
I don't even think they have close to the biggest personalities in the Discord tier anymore.
That doesn't necessarily mean I believe it, but
True.
for the sake of this podcast,
You're
I
doubling
believe
down.
it, and I'm doubling down.
We'll see how they come out of the rebuild. That's my stance on it. I don't know how the rest of you guys feel on that.
Yeah, the rebuild is going to be the telltale sign.
I'll touch on it a little later.
All right. Nick, you made a prediction that the Fighting Potatoes would reach the semifinals this season. Potatoes are 2-6 right now. Do you want to take a second look at that?
Oh man, it hurts me so much to say this just because I love the Potatoes. But I mean, losing Gamstry, Riggs kind of spotty-ish on attendance in games. That's going to hurt them in the long run. If Riggs' attendance changes and he's there more often, I can see it happening. I can see that being attainable. But with the way it's been so far, I have to say, I have to back out of this one.
Now, these are some of my best real life, or like some of my great real life friends. They're not going to make the playoffs. I hate to say it. There's just too much struggle right now. The team's trying to find some DPS help with Gamstry leaving, and before that, Gamstry no-showed a bunch of games. It's a rough spot. Team really struggled without him. Then this team looked great at the beginning of the season, bringing Maelstrom to Game 5. Like that alone was huge. They brought Jetpack Cats with Melts, and before their rebuild to Map 5, and it's questionable. They had a DC that could have honestly won the game for them if they didn't have that DC. So Potatoes, hate to break it to you, it's just not gonna. I don't see it happening for these guys anymore. Any other thoughts, NPC Specs?
I agree. I don't think the Potatoes can do it. I want them to. I really do, but I just don't see it.
Don't see it.
Unfortunate. In the chat for Potatoes.
Unfortunate Potatoes. Moving on then. Specs. They've been your whipping boys all season. Mm-hmm. And you went ahead and made a prediction saying they won't make the playoffs. If the season ended today, Alt F4 would be the 10th seed in the playoffs. Specs, now is your time. Do you want to double down on this prediction, or do you want to go ahead and just pull it back?
Yeah, so when we originally made that prediction, there were 16 teams, and you had to be, in the top 10 of 16. Now you have to be in the top 10 of 14. It's a lot easier to get done there. That being said, they're going to be the 11th place team missing out on map differential. I think Eclipse end up taking them over right now. Again, statistically tied. They have the tiebreaker. That is what that is. But I think Eclipse, Alt F4, Prodigious, and Sugar Rush are going to be fighting for those wild card spots. And I think those that group right there, I just don't know if Alt F4 have enough skill to win that, pull out of that, to be completely honest.
And this is ignoring New Otaku. And then that team is rebuilding nicely. Combine that with Infius kind of starting to really figure it out right now. They look to be a stronger team. Like, there's some teams here that are really starting to sort out their stuff in the lower end of the bracket. We'll be talking about that a little bit more later, but Alt F4 is in an interesting spot, guys. Any thoughts from you two about Alt F4?
I think they can make it. I think they're going to squeak in. I know Specs is a hater and he's doubling down here, but I think they can do it. I've seen them play, and I think they're at the very least an average team in the tier, and that puts them in playoff territory, especially out of 14 teams.
I have to say, O-Story's main tank was a nice change.
Not terrible.
It was a nice change. It was a good change. They needed that. I think that helps their team a lot. Nick, any thoughts, Alt F4?
As it stands right now, I think it's doable for them. I think it's tough for them to get into the playoffs, but I can see it happening. Am I going to put money on it? No.
All right, so we'll move on then off of Alt F4. I made the prediction that Courage would be the MVP for the Discord tier. Obviously, we've made a lot of comments. Courage underperforming for Meteors. Been talked about a lot this season. And I am actually going to go back on my thought. I think there's too many good players on Meteors for Courage to stand out as much as he's capable of standing out. I still think he's the best player on Meteors, But because of the fact that there's way too many good players on the Meteors, he's never going to stand out. I am going to make a new prediction on MVP right now, though. And it's a team that's not commit, team that's not Meteors. One last ride. I think it's really time we start talking about Overnight Coder a little bit. Overnight Coder, I mean, in the 3v3, for those of you who had a chance to see that last week, he popped off a lot. A big part of that team. I think we need to start talking about Overnight Coder a little bit, guys. So, any thoughts from you guys about Courage MVP?
I'm going to save my thoughts on Courage MVP for a little bit later.
All right. Any other thoughts from you guys?
I think there's just too much talent on the Discord too to be able to call it right now. I know we're mid-season, but there's just so many good players to be able to say without a doubt who's going to be an MVP.
Yeah, I don't even know if Courage is the MVP of his team, to be honest, but we'll leave that there.
NPC, you made a prediction. The Maelstrom would be in the finals. They're sitting 7-1 right now, but you do have to start to question. They just lost Ruru, who was a big part of their team's success early on. Still have really powerful pieces, but do you think they're still going to go to the finals?
Well, when I was choosing my wardrobe for today's episode of the podcast, I decided I was going to go ahead and double down on this one as well. I think Maelstrom are going to pull it off. I'm on that train. I think, I mean, Rue was great. Fantastic, offset DPS there for triage. And I think they're not going to have quite the same success, but I feel like they've got enough wins in the bank right now to actually just get to the playoffs. So even if they spend the rest of the regular season in garbage time, just trying to figure out what their new situation is going to be and building that synergy as a team, not worrying about the losses, just playing right through it. Once they get to the finals, that's when they make their move. And, they can sandbag all they want the rest of the season, basically, and hide their strats and then come up with something stronger in the playoffs. It could happen.
You'd know something about sandbagging, wouldn't you, NPC?
I do. I'm a big fan of sandbagging.
I do want to point out before we continue this discussion about Maelstrom, let's start talking about their schedule a little bit. The remainder of the season, they have new Boop, very much better than the old Boop. They have Illusion. They have Vitamin C. They have the new pacified pythons, still have minty hippos, and they still have karma. So some big games against really some of the top talent in the tier. We did see them take out Holy Jalapenos at the beginning of the season. We did see them take out Jetpack Cats, Undead Battery. They lost to Carol's Pandas, but do you think their schedule is impactful the rest of the way here, Specs?
I think it does, to be honest. That's. I don't want to say it's an easy schedule, but at the same point, like NPC was saying, do they even have to get another win to make playoffs at this point? I don't think they do. So if they really focus on growing as a team and getting the synergy down, and not necessarily again focusing on the results, I think they'll be fine. But I think it's going to affect their playoff seeding, and it might be a little bit harder in the playoffs because of it. But that's the most it'll do.
What do you think, Nick?
I think they're a front runner for being in the finals for sure. I think they do have a bit of a tougher schedule than they have had, considering they've played some teams that weren't performing as well in the beginning of the season or have been in the process of rebuilding when they did play them. That being said, I think, like we've been saying, I don't think it really matters that they have a tough schedule coming up because they've just established themselves with such a good map differential and a win-loss record that they can lose like more than half of those games and it's not going to change anything.
Definitely. I still think they're in a great spot. I don't think anybody's questioning that for sure. Nick, you made the prediction about Invictus. You said that they would struggle to find their ground this season. They're sitting right now actually pretty good. They're 5-3, right in the middle of the pack for the playoffs. The season ended today, they would be a number 4 or number 6 seed. Honestly, not a bad spot to be. What do you think about your boys on Invictus?
Yeah, they've been doing a lot better than I gave them credit for at the beginning of the season. I was looking at their roster going in. I cut out again, didn't I? So I was a little bit worried about looking at the players they had, their SR overall. I mean, SR's subjective to a certain extent, but I mean, you compare some of the players that we had at like 2800, 2900 to other players that were 32, 33, 34. I mean, it's still a huge difference. That being said, they've done pretty well for themselves. I still think that they will struggle a little bit the remaining of the season, but I mean they can definitely get a high playoff spot here.
Any thoughts from you guys on Invictus?
I I do see that they had trouble finding their start, and I don't know that they've actually found that start. I feel like they're in a spot where they are, and I don't feel like they're going to waver too much, and they're going to be that consistently average team, and that can carry them all the way through the playoffs. It really can. If you're consistently playing good, then that's going to beat a lot of teams that play great one game and then garbage the next, because they may have a better map record, they may have better win loss, but if you catch the right teams on the right day, you can roll them. So I feel like Invictus, they didn't have trouble finding that footing, but they're just they are where they are, and they're in a pretty good spot. So
Specs, I know you've gone after Invictus a little bit this season. So.
Yeah, I have. I don't want to say they've had an easy schedule so far, but I think they've had the easier half of their schedule so far. I see 3, 4, potentially 5 losses coming from the last half of their schedule here with Renovadio, Commit, Eclipse, One Last Ride, and then anything's up in the air with either Harmony and Chaos or Invictus, depending on if they show off that week or not. I think they're gonna be a playoff team. I think they'll be in that 7, 8, 9, 10 kind of range though.
All right. Yeah, Invictus, I will say Falcon, great pickup for that team. I've touched on that before, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse on it. But Specs, beating dead horses is in your repertoire. So do you want to come down with this one here and say, again, there will be no teams that competed last season in the finals for either division. So this included rebrands, correct?
This
teams
did.
like Tough Luck and Maelstrom. None of those teams will be in the finals. Do you want to double down on that?
We'll break it up into tiers a little bit here. To me, there's a clear top 6 in Discord. Of course, going to name names. It's Commit, Meteors, One Last Ride, Tough Luck, Renovadio, and then Instalock. I think those are the top 6 teams there. Of those 6 teams, only Tough Luck and Meteors are there left to potentially fight for that. I don't know if I see it happening, but I can see one of them squeaking into it. So I think if it's going to happen in a tier, it'd be in the Discord tier. Looking at the Harmony tier, I think that's where it's a little bit different. I think Vitamin C at the current moment in time is going to be kind of a shoe-in for it. But that also leaves Maelstrom and Illusion, who I think are 2 very big contenders there that could potentially push into the finals there.
It has been pointed out again that Maelstrom is technically not a rebrand.
Technically I
not.
know they hate it.
Yes.
But
So
for the purposes of this prediction,
they are.
they are. So I will say Discord tier is going to be new teams, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be Commit, and the only team who can really get in there then I think is Meteors. I think Tough Luck is still a ways away from being in that contention right now. But One Last Ride is going to give Meteors a run for their money. And then I think the other team in Harmony tier, I think we're going to see Vitsi in the finals, barring a collapse of epic proportions. The other team, Harmony tier, I'm not going to say, because I think there's 3 teams that could be in the finals. One of them is my team. And I think it's going to be, and all 3 of those teams are rebrands or teams from last season. So I think Harmony tier, I think finalists are going to see at least one of those teams in there. Any thoughts, Nick, NPC?
No, I disagreed with this at the time, and I disagree now. I mean, I feel like there's enough good quality teams that are both rebrands and leftover teams, original teams from season 2, that are contenders. And like I said, if you catch the right team on the right day, sometimes you're going to get that win. So I don't believe this is going to be the case in either tier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing like NPC said. I mean, there's still enough teams that are in high enough spots and across both tiers that are either rebrands or returning teams from last season. So I mean,
a key point on this for me, I think we need to talk about, is Careless Pandas looked very different in week 1 than they do in week 8.
Agreed.
It's a big thing for them right now. Moving on, then we had a prediction here from me, which is about Careless Pandas. I made a prediction saying they'd go 15-0, but lose in the playoffs, and I'm gonna double down. No, I'm not.
Good call.
Yeah, so I can't double down on that one because of reasons. But I am going to change it. Vitamin C is going to go 15-0, but they will lose in the playoffs.
See it.
Okay.
Nick, you made a prediction previously that they would barely make the playoffs at all. That's looking pretty good right now, buddy.
I'm gonna double down. We're seeing teams that are on the rise right now that can overtake them in the standings and do that pretty easily. I'm looking at New Pythons who, got their first win and are looking really scary. Boop as well, got their first win, looking to keep that going. Jalapenos, Minty Hippos, all of those teams, they're on the rise, whereas Pandas are just dropping.
Be interesting to see how the Pandas pan out the rest of the way. Any thoughts from NPC Specs?
I mean, the Careless Pandas were on track to go 15-0, and then they had some roster changes, had some players leave. That's impacted them. I don't know that they're going to lose the first game of the playoffs, because at this point, I think maybe they're in like wild card territory, so they may be able to beat one of those wild card teams. But yeah, I don't see them in the semis or the finals.
Yeah, no, I agree. I see them playing like a DDoS kind of caliber team right there, and then potentially taking the win. I don't even know if they do that, to be completely honest. But the even bigger prediction here is: did I predict them to lose 10 maps total? Yes. Do I look like an absolute idiot? Par for the course. So we'll just move on with it.
NPC, you made the prediction that at least one of the MVPs in the tiers would be a main tank. Now, in the mid-season MVP, we saw Smugs take the Discord tier and Cryogenics take the Harmony tier. Moving on now here, end of the season, do you think a main tank is still going to be at the MVP?
Okay, so I'm going to circle back around to that prediction from earlier that you said that Courage was going to be the MVP. Okay, follow me on this one. We got to see Courage play in the Orisa in this last game, okay? So if Courage plays Orisa, okay, and he's really good at it, he could be the MVP and make the main tank the MVP all at the same time. So my dreams would come true. Courage, make it happen, buddy.
Hey, Crispy, you have a new support on your team. What's their name? He has an R. Can you help me out here, Crispy? I know you're in chat. Because of an R. Oh, reach. Yeah, nice reach there, NPC. Moving on. No way. There's no way an MVP is going to be main tank. They weren't even in the top 5 of either tier. So, Specs, Nick, any thoughts?
Nope.
As much as I want it to happen, because I'm apparently taking up main tank for Illusion now. I don't see it happening.
Hold on, wait. Nick's a main tank for Illusion. All right, I gotta go check to make sure. Yes, I did predict.
We gotta check our
Illusion.
MVP predictions.
Yeah, everybody checks the predictions. Okay.
Just roll back on that one. It's not happening, boys.
Specs, thoughts?
I don't know if there'll be a tank, but now that I'm a reformed support player, it might happen. It might happen. We'll see.
All right, next one here. Nick, you made the prediction Harmony and Chaos won't find the success it did last season. Harmony and Chaos yet to win a match. Would you like to double down on that?
Yes, please.
All right, so nothing else needs to be said. Anybody else comments on Harmony and Chaos? Their unfortunate start to the season here.
You still sleeping on them, Yeti? Or are we still sleeping on them? That didn't make
at a
sense.
certain point, the NyQuil just takes over, and then you sleep forever. And right now, I don't know if Harmony and Chaos is ever going to wake up. It'll be tough. I love Harmony. I love Cav, obviously, and I'm pretty sure he's not going to ban me for saying that. But not the "I love you" part, but the whole "they won't wake up" part. NPC, bail me out here.
Okay, so Harmony they've come a long way. They're trying their best, but I just don't think they're finding success because they're playing in the Discord tier. There's just a lot of raw talent up there, and them and Otaku were a couple of teams that I felt like could do they could dominate Harmony tier. But they brought in a couple of players that were just too high, and they wanted to stay together as a team. So a lot of them moved up into the Discord tier. And I'm not sure that that was the move they needed to make. Now, maybe they're improving as players because of it, because you can't get better if you just keep crushing the Harmony tier over and over again.
Right.
So if you want to get better, you got to find stronger opponents, and that's what they've done. And maybe they are getting better, but going into the season, there was already, stronger competition out there, and it's a long road for them to get another win. So,
All right. Anybody else? Harmony in Chaos. All right, moving on. Specs. You made the prediction there will still be parity in the Harmony tier like last season, but the Discord tier, there will be a group of 5 or so teams that will run the division. You've already kind of doubled down on this here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a top 6 teams there in Discord that are the only title contenders, to be completely honest. I think that's kind of set in stone. Looking at the 2 tiers, there is definitely more parity in the Harmony tier. Yes, there's a couple top 3 teams there, but besides that, you have 3 teams with 5 wins, you have 3 teams with 4 wins, and then you have 4 teams with 2 wins. So there's a lot of potential to change things up real quickly there. 2-3 weeks, and that whole the just playoff brackets completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's definitely still there, and that's still a thing. So yeah, of course, gonna double down with this.
Any other thoughts from you guys on that one? Parity in the Harmony tier, no parity in Discord.
I kind of agree here with what Specs is saying. Now, Specs said the group of 5 or so teams that were on the division. He keeps saying 6 teams so that he can throw his own team in there. Don't act like I don't see it, because I see what you're doing there.
Oh,
There's
no,
those top
I
5 teams, and then my team. We're with those guys. We're with them the whole time. The more
We
you
already
say it,
beat
it doesn't
one of
make
them,
it
so.
true. I'm just saying. But yes, Discord tier definitely has that high caliber of play that are just head and shoulders above the rest, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying about Harmony and Chaos. It's just like there's a Discord tier, and then there's the Discord tier, and it's just it's a step up. It's going to be hard to break into that.
I will go ahead and say that there's not as much parity in the Harmony tier, because I think there's a clear top 5 in Harmony right now. But that said, that's right now. I think
Top 6, including the Comets.
No, nobody's actually crazy enough to say that. But I think there's less parity in the Harmony tier than we initially thought. I think by season's end, we're going to say different, though, because we see teams like Pythons greatly improving. Undead Battery really finding their own right now. We see Boop obviously starting to break through a little bit here. They got a big match this week, but Boop has a decent schedule coming up, too. It's something that can't be overlooked. They're not done yet, guys. So something to keep in mind here. I think the parity by the end of the season will be way better than it is right in this exact moment. So, Nick, any thoughts?
I mean, for me, it's kind of like both tiers are pretty much at the same place. So you got like a clear top 5, top 4, top 5,
Mhm.
and then everything after that, it's just the teams are pretty much like 1 win away from just shaking up the roster standings completely.
Mhm.
So I don't know if we can call it one tier having no parity and another tier having complete parity. I can't double down on that one, Specs.
The interesting thing right now about the Discord tier that I'm going to point out, Envious Gaming right now is in 14th with map differential. Or is it Otaku? It's one of those two. One of those two.
Envious.
Is Envious? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's keep this in mind, guys. That doesn't really matter right now because they are 1 match behind. If they win a match and people they're above them start losing, they're tied for the playoff spot. They're right there. So we want parity, maybe not from the commits and One Last Rides and Meteors. Let's talk about parity from 5th to 14th. There's your parity, guys. Literally any one of those teams can win right now at any given time. And I'm going to start talking about Otaku. Or Otaknu. They look they look like they're really putting some things together. I have a good feeling about that team moving forward. For me, the big thing with them is going to be Garrido. He is an incredible DPS. He has risen to Grandmasters this season. Throughout the season, he has really grinded his ass off, and it shows. So, Speaking of Otaku, the last prediction was Otaku will not make the playoffs. That was a big prediction at the time. A lot of people felt good about Otaku. I am taking that prediction back. I think new Otaku is going to make the playoffs. They are 2-6 currently. They have big matches coming up here. They got new leadership, good DPS players. Support line is getting better. That team is going to be worth watching right now. We'll be talking about Otaku come playoff time for fighting for that wild card spot. Do you think I'm crazy, guys? Do you think I've been watching too much anime?
It's never enough anime. One, two. I don't think it's crazy, but I also think the fact that there's less teams now competing due to, all the events that have transpired since the beginning of the season helps that prediction. Helps us roll back on that prediction. But I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I think they definitely have a shot, especially with the new rebuild coming in.
NPC thoughts on Otaku?
I agree. I mean, Otaku's been one of those teams that's been rebuilding since day one. And as a Dallas Cowboys fan, I can get behind that.
Story of your life.
Yeah, I know exactly. But I feel, like you said, anybody could win at any moment here, just with 1 or 2 games. And I did play in the 3v3 with Rocker, and he was honestly the carry. So I feel like I mean they're looking good. I got to see them prove themselves before I actually put them in the power rankings. But yeah, I feel like they could do it.
I think this next week is going to be a big week for a lot of teams to prove themselves. Teams like Otaku, teams like Boop, teams like Pathified Pythons, like teams like Instalock, like with the changes they've had. I mean, Instalock's had some big wins, but they've changed a lot. So teams like Tough Luck, all those teams need to prove themselves right now. So I think there's teams all over the board. So anyways, that's the end of our revisiting bold predictions here, guys. We are going to make some quick new bold predictions. We're going to go around the table. Each person is going to state one team that is currently not in the top 10 of their respective tier as a bold prediction who will make the playoffs. And I'm going to start this off. And I touched on them before, and I'm going to say it again. It's Otaku. I've already said it. I'm not going to dive down the hole again. NPC, go ahead.
I'm going to go with Boop. I think they're on the upswing. They've played through the losses. They've gotten their act together. They're the ones that are going to make the playoffs.
I was also going to go Boop, but since NPC took Boop, I think Pythons have a chance at making it with this rebuild.
Pythons was my second choice too.
Specs, thoughts?
Yeah, why have one when you can have two? Looking at the Discord tier here, the teams in 9th and 10th place respectively, which are Prodigious and Alt F4, will not make the playoffs, and Otaku and Eclipse will be in those 9th and 10th spots.
Wow, all right. Something to watch out for the remainder of the season. The nice thing is these predictions don't mean anything. What matters is how the matches play out, and we'll be sure to recap every single one of them along the way. We're going to go ahead now and show off the comms check for Week 8, put together by Impers.
Alrighty, boys, get your fingers on that Wes, get your mouse on the keyboard, and get your ass glued to the street, because let's get ready to rumble!
Where did he
Bang, bang.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, drop your shield, pulling above.
What's he pulling here? Break shield.
Hacks.
We just gotta
Dude, send bomb first, send bomb first.
We might have high noon. Big bomb.
She's too far. Run.
Nice, huge!
Oh, nice.
Yeah, okay, take it! Reaper!
He's gonna kill me. Reaper.
Oh no! We actually threw!
I'm taking a poop real quick. Poop time!
Hey guys, everybody boo ice. Boo!
Holy shit, this random ward ball that came in.
Big, kill Liana, help your Ryan, guys.
Drop ball, let's push!
Yes!
We want a map with Gaft!
Wow! Holy shit!
Oh god.
It's okay. Run. Sorry. Alright, very good job. Just war.
Moira's in our back, guy.
What Moira? Let's go!
Yeah, let's go!
Dude, I sniped up that from so far away, bro.
I know, dude. You fucking Kefrier.
Feels like it's been 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's like in reality we still got another minute.
Is it really? Oh my god.
I'm still pooping.
Are you serious? Can that? Don't clip that. You just put that in.
I'm still pooping.
Okay, and I know what your problem is. There's 2 words. You ready? It's Mighty Bear. Okay? I don't know how he managed to do it, all right? But Cryptic Force managed to feed on Orisa. Okay? His manager at McDonald's saw the VOD and made him employee of the month because he's so good at feeding horse meat. Okay? You need to bring that guy in, okay? Put him on something, a deeper jail than Orisa jail.
Oh god.
Okay? I'm just saying, somehow he managed to feed.
Oh.
I don't know. Dimtree called me and he says, NPC, I know you're like 2,500, but we're going to need you over here because we're just not cutting it. I mean, I press shift a lot, but I don't know how he managed to do it.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it.
Yeah, I hate to see it.
Thank you, Impers. We appreciate you, buddy. That was fantastic.
Oh, employee of the month.
I hope somebody clipped that, by the way. If you didn't, please clip it for Cryptic Force. He is a support god, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. All right, guys. A couple of quick announcements here before we get into our predictions segment. First is the Hall of Fame. We announced that earlier this season. We'll be revealing the results of that in 2 weeks on this very podcast. Next week, we have a very exciting cast, and that is our annual, now we'll say that because that's fair, our annual fantasy draft. This last year, extremely well received. We will be doing the fantasy draft again. This isn't actually like a delete or a separate thing that we're going to be doing, like with points and stuff. Like, it's not a real fantasy draft, but it's basically us just drafting together teams that we think will be the best possible teams. There are specific rules for that. We'll touch on that next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. I loved the fantasy draft segment last season, and we will be doing it again. We will have some special guests for that fantasy draft. We will have Juke, current Twitch administrator. He'll be taking care of that, and we will also have Smirk from Invictus. So they'll be joining us. They will be drafting with us. It's going to be a lot of fun to get these guys in here with us, and it is one of the more fun segments we do. I am really excited to have this little draft here. So it'll be a 6-person draft because I will not be participating. So six people put together, and it'll be a lot of fun. So looking forward to doing that next week here, guys. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the meetup. We have harped on it, and I'm going to harp on it again. I'm going to get very close to my microphone. Probably too close. My speech is probably muffled. If you're planning on going to the meetup, RSVP now. I'm looking at you. NPC will come to your house, and he'll drop a Lipton tea bag on your doorstep.
You don't want that.
You don't want that. If you're going to go to the meetup, you need to RSVP now. Cav is putting together swag bags. Do you want a swag bag? I want a swag bag.
If you just show up, that's great. We'll be glad to have you, but you're not getting any swag.
Exactly. We want you to get swag. Cav puts together some awesome stuff. We touched on this before.
This poster? Right here?
Yeah, that poster right there.
This poster was a season 2 poster. I got stickers I got Gravity stickers. I got Tranquility stickers. I got stickers from like other random teams. I mean, whatever team you're on, you're going to get a sticker. You're going to get stuff. I mean, he's planning something big. He hasn't even told us all of what's in there, but he's planning some big stuff, and he's going to mail them out. So I need to know how many we need to get.
If you're going to go, RSVP now. Last warning. Thanks. Now, what you all came here for is the predictions. We're going to start this off a little bit differently. everybody is going to pick one match where they are calling it their upset special, the match of the week where the favored team will lose. We use the predictions in the Discord in order to determine who is a favorite and who is not. And we're going to start with Specs.
Yeah, so might as well start with the biggest one here, right? It's going to happen for the first time for Commit. They're losing this week to Renovadio. I think Renovadio, what they're doing is absolutely insane, and they've kind of gone under the radar a little bit here. This is their first kind of big test, and I think they're going to live up to it. I think they absolutely take this map this week.
Nick, what do you think?
Am I talking about Spex's, or do you want me to give
about your own.
For me, like talking about the Harmony tier, just because that's where I kind of shine. The one that I see as the biggest potential upset is Jetpack Cats and Careless Pandas. I can see Jetpack Cats winning this. I think both teams are kind of going through a rebuild, but I think the assets that Careless Pandas lost are going to affect them much more than what Jetpack Cats have lost.
NPC, what do you think?
Okay, that's fair. My upset is going to be Eclipse winning over Sugar Rush. I mean, Sugar Rush, they're a pretty good team, but they have yet to actually play any meta. And I see Eclipse starting to do that now that they've gotten Mighty Bear to not feed. So I feel like after their performance this past week, I think Eclipse has what it takes to possibly win several matches for the rest of the season and get to the playoffs.
I had kind of a tough one if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because there's a lot of upsets. Like, I actually predicted several of them. So for me, this was kind of a tough thing to go about going on here. But the one I picked was Infeus Gaming over Invictus. Much as I complimented Invictus before, I think Infeus Gaming is starting to figure it out. They put on a really good performance last week against Commit, despite not pulling out a map. They still were able to compete with them consistently. And that's one thing I will say is Infeus is starting to really get better and better and better as time is going on here. I think this week is going to be their first match win. And I think it's going to happen against Invictus. So we will now go ahead and do our predictions. So we're doing these a little bit differently this week, guys. We're trying to expedite our predictions just a little bit more. So let's have a quick look here at predictions in the Harmony tier. We have Careless Pandas, Jetpack Cats. Everybody going Careless Pandas except for Specs going Jetpack Cats. Maelstrom versus Boop. Everybody picks Maelstrom except for one Ski for Yeti going with Boop. Next one on the list is Minty Hippos versus Fighting Pandas, Fighting Potatoes, a clean sweep for the Minty Hippos. Next is Pacified Pythons versus DDoS. See DDoS taking the win from everybody else except for Ski for Yeti, picking the Pythons. We see Spare Change. Here's the Comets. Comets, clean sweep of the board there against Spare Change. And then Vitamin C against Undead Battery. Again, clean sweep from the panel. And then last but not least, Karma versus Holy Jalapenos, the closest match of the season here, or the closest match of the week, and it's the one we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about. The panel was split here. For those asking, because I saw a couple people ask, we use the silence logo for people that are currently on those teams. We don't have them do predictions for their own teams because that would be silly. So that's why Thug did not do DDoS, for instance. So, and I did not do Karma. Nick didn't do Illusion.
Silence making a comeback, by the way.
We have the bye this week.
Of
anyway,
course.
so.
Right. Guys, Karma versus Holy Jalapenos. Let's talk about that match a little bit. I'm not going to go into it too deep, but it's probably the most hotly contested match this week. Any thoughts from you guys? Let's start with Specs.
Is it too late to change my prediction? I made this before the match last night, and Holy Jalapenos are just scary. They're just absolutely scary, and it's not one individual player. It's top down. They are gelling very, very well right now, and I would be scared to play them. Absolutely.
Nick, any thoughts here?
Yeah. I didn't see the game prior to making the prediction. Jalapenos just playing as one unit. Just everything's clicking for them right now. They're so in sync. I think Karma has the individual talent to potentially win, but I think the team play from Jalapenos.
NPC, what do you think?
I have the jalapenos here. I mean, I played in that 3v3. I watched the rest of the 3v3. Their 3v3 team was pretty tough. I think they can just take down Karma through sheer DPS and team organization. Karma's not a slouch team by any means, but just jalapenos have been just on their game. That's nowhere to go but up for them.
It'll be a fun match this week. I'm really excited to play it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I am terrified. And then we'll take a look at our Discord tier predictions. We have Instalock taking on the Meteors. It's a Meteors 3 out of 4. Instalock being chosen by Thug, though. Favoring the boys from the Instalock. Aimbots versus Otaku. That one aged poorly, but it is still there because I did not re-edit the video. Infius Gaming versus Invictus. Invictus clean sweep other than myself. We've touched on that earlier. Sugar Rush versus Eclipse. We see Eclipse picked by 3 of the panel and Sugar Rush picked by 2. Again, split panel there. One Last Ride taking on all the 4 and a clean sweep for One Last Ride. Moving on then is Prodigious versus Harmony and Chaos. We see Prodigious selected by 4 and 5 of the panel, but Specs picking the Harmony boys to get their first win. And then Commit versus Renovadio. Commit versus Renovadio is going to be a huge match, and not only that, it is our Tuesday feature match in the Discord tier. Again, that is Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern Time. Commit
tomorrow.
Renovadio, that is tomorrow night. Guys, huge match. Commit's first time on the feature. Renovadio's second, but this is a different Renovadio than we saw week 1. This is a exciting match, and Specs, you and I, we had a feeling on this one. Do you want to move on from that one a little bit?
Yeah. I just love what Renovadio is doing right now. I don't want to say Commit's getting complacent, but I think they're going to start to be. I think they're not going to put some effort in the next couple of weeks. Just kind of ride it out, take a little bit of a break. Garbage time, exactly. They're, again, a team that's pretty much locked in for the playoffs at this point. I really like what Renovadio is doing, and I know how motivated they are to win this game specifically. I would be terrified to play them this week. And we talked about One Last Ride Meteors being the match of the season so far. This is going to be it. Period.
Nick, thoughts on on Renovadio and Commit?
Yeah, I think Renovadio's been doing really good things so far. I mean, like we said, they're kind of flying under the radar, but I don't think they're doing enough to be able to beat Commit. Commit might get complacent. I don't think they're going to get complacent on the week of their feature match.
What do you think, NBC?
I agree with Nick here. I just think Renovadio, they're going to give us a very, very close game. It's going to be a great game to watch. I'm really excited to see it. But Commit just cannot be stopped. This is a feature match, like Nick said. They're gonna prepare. They're gonna prepare for it like it's every game. I don't see Commit as the sandbagging type. I know a lot about sandbagging. I'm just saying I don't see them as that type, and I see them pushing hard every single game, just to get that number 1 seed. So they're gonna have an easier time in the playoffs. I see them doing that. They have the coordination they need, and I don't see them pulling back anytime soon.
I think Renovadio is extremely motivated to win this match. Talking to Cream beforehand, Cream has basically said that this is the match they've been putting on their calendar since week 1. And it's for good reason. This is the one they want to win more than anything else. I think, honestly, if they win this match and went winless the rest of the way and didn't even make the playoffs, I think Cream would still call it a success based on how pumped up he is for this match right now. Guys, it's such a huge game. Both teams are incredibly motivated to put on their best possible show. I think this could be just as good as the Meteors One Last Ride match we just watched. I did pick Renovadio winning this one. I still stand by that. But at the very minimum, we're going to see Commit stretched to the limit more than we've ever seen them stretch. So I think this is a big match. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this. The key matchup for me is going to be Cream on main tank against Sir Andy on main tank. I think the better tank line is going to be critical to win this. We know how good DC is. We know how good Axiom is. You know, we know how good those guys are. But for me, it all comes down to who wins the tank battle. And I think who wins the tank battle is going to win this game. So, going to be an exciting week in the Tranquility community. That is it for the Iris podcast. Again, be sure to tune in next week. We will have our fantasy draft. Hopefully by then I will not have the plague like I do now. But again, for NPC, Nick, and Specs, I'm Ski for Yeti, and we will see you again next week. Thanks for watching.
Experience tranquility.